Hello, guys. Good day. This is Anne of Reinforce Big Love, your fellow positive reinforcer. Today, we are going to talk about loneliness. Why feeling alone could be worse than you think. Now, loneliness is a profound emotional experience that affects millions of people worldwide, transcending age, background, and circumstance. While many think of loneliness as simply feeling sad or isolated, its effects can be much more complex and far reaching. Research reveals that loneliness is not just a fleeting emotion, it has serious implications for both mental and physical health. Now, today, we are going to explore some of the main disadvantages and effects of loneliness, including its potential to harm overall health and even reduce one's lifespan. Now, the most common target of loneliness, of feeling alone, you know, the area of ourselves wherein loneliness has the best impact is our mental health. Loneliness can lead to several mental health issues, including depression and anxiety. Chronic loneliness is strongly associated with an increased risk of depression and anxiety. Without social interaction, people may feel unsupported and turn to rumination, a cycle of repetitive negative thoughts that can worsen mental health. Stress and reduced resilience, is also another result of being lonely. Social support helps people cope with stress more effectively. In the absence of it, lonely people tend to experience heightened stress responses, making them more vulnerable to life's challenges and hardship. Now, there is actually a saying that no man is an island, which is indeed true. You can't make this life alone. You got to be connected with others because that's what we're here for. Born to be connected. Otherwise, due to isolation, we're not going to learn anything, we're not going to feel anything, and that will shrink our lifespan. Now, when we are also lonely, loneliness is linked to cognitive decline, particularly in older adults. Isolation reduces mental stimulation, which over time can impair memory and other cognitive functions, increasing the risk of dementia. Now, to those lonely person, there's another risk that is awaiting, and that is the physical health risk to those lonely people. Now, I have the I have the audacity to say this, lonely people, because accepting the the reality, accepting what's in front of us, the situation, can actually help us do something about it. Now, I do feel lonely sometimes. That is why I have to address it to myself and take it as it is so that I can do something about it. Not just only, this doesn't only applies to women, also to men, to anybody. Now, in terms of physical health risk, loneliness doesn't just affect the mind. It has a direct consequences on physical health. Now, speaking about cardiovascular problems, chronic loneliness is associated with higher blood pressure, inflammation, and heart disease. Research suggests that loneliness can increase the risk of heart attack and stroke. Loneliness can also lead to weakened immune system, you know, in such a way that the body has a reduced ability to fight off illness. Studies have shown that people who experience chronic loneliness tend to have lower immunity, making them more susceptible to infections. Now, another thing that we got to face about loneliness. Loneliness means that when you are lonely, in a chronic way, you may have an increased mortality risk. Persistent loneliness can have such severe health consequences that it can significantly raises the risk of early death. In fact, Some studies have suggested that loneliness is harmful, much harmful than smoking 15 cigarettes a day or being significantly overweight in terms of its impact on longevity. Now, another thing, another downside of being lonely is that it has a behavioral effects in us. Loneliness can lead people to engage in unhealthy behaviors that further harm well-being. Now, when one is lonely, he tend to have a poor sleep quality. Lonely people are more likely to experience poor sleep, which can affect mood, focus, and overall health. This lack of restorative sleep can lead to a vicious cycle where feeling isolated causes poor sleep, which can then further impacts emotional health. Loneliness can also make a person uh, have an increased probability to do a substance abuse. Some people may turn to drugs or alcohol as a coping mechanism for loneliness, which can create dependency and additional health risk. To some people, social isolation often reduce physical activity to some people, which can lead to other health problems like obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Now, loneliness have also social and emotional consequences. Chronic loneliness can distort self-perception, making people feel unworthy of friendship or incapable of connecting with others. This often leads to further isolation and worsens loneliness. Prolonged loneliness can also make social interaction to people feel daunting, leading to increased anxiety about engaging with others. So, the more isolated you could be, the more social anxiety you're going to have if you don't practice the skill of connecting with people. This can create a cycle where loneliness makes it harder to connect, which in turn reinforces much social isolation in your part. Lonely people may also misinterpret social interactions as negative, feeling rejected or undervalued, even when this isn't the case. This negative bias can further perpetuate the cycle of loneliness. Now, another question. Does loneliness kill? Does the feeling of loneliness kill someone? Now, with all this downside, disadvantages of loneliness that I have opened up to you right now, does loneliness kills? Well, the answer is yes. Chronic loneliness has been shown to increase the risk of early mortality. The cumulative effects of loneliness on physical health, such as cardiovascular disease, weakened immunity, combined with its impact on mental health, contribute to this risk of early mortality. In fact, researchers have found that chronic loneliness is a predictor of early death. Early death because you're going to be prone to develop these other risk factors like obesity, physical inactivity, and even substance abuse. Now, all in all, loneliness is not merely an uncomfortable state. It is a serious risk factor for mental and physical health. The impacts are often cyclical. Loneliness worsens mental and physical health, which in turn makes it harder for individuals to break out the cycle of loneliness. Social connections are essential for emotional support, stress relief, and overall well being, meaning that fostering meaningful relationships is vital for longevity and quality of life. Combating loneliness often involves reaching out for support, engaging in community activities, or seeking professional help to rebuild social skills. Recognizing loneliness as a public health concern and supporting people in building connections could play a crucial role in improving health outcomes across all ages. Elderly people are not the age group who are prone to be lonely. Even the teenagers, even the young adults, even the 50s, we are all prone to this. Now, it's way better to be aware about this health risk so that we can do something about it. Other than that, you know, telling you all this information today, in other words, connection, meaningful connection is essential to to all of us. It is a need, one of the basic need that we have to remember and take part of for our own sake and for the sake of others too. Now, if you ever get something from the episode today, you can follow me in YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, even in Amazon Podcast. You can even share this to your family and friends. Reinforce Me Club. By the way, it's Anne, your fellow positive reinforcer. I do appreciate your time and have a lovely day ahead. Thank you very much.